What I'd like to do now is really run you folks through a flow where we take an application that's running in Tectonic, make a change to it so you can see how it can fit in and flow through the entire life cycle of an application change. So let's go take a look at services. What I have running in my own namespace is a Hello World application. So this is a really simple application. But if you can see, I've exposed this application through a load balancer. Again, really simple application. So let's go actually make a change to this. Let's say developers are pulling and changing to this thing. I'm going to make a change right here to this particular application and commit it. And then what I'd like to do is cut over to something we call Quay, which is our container registry. So with that change, you'll see that Quay automatically kicks off a build for that particular application. So this is a nice feature of Quay, where Quay can set up a build trigger such that if you develop something or change something in GitHub, it automatically kicks off a build for you. In real life, you might have something like a CI or a CD, Jenkins perhaps, doing some of this building stuff. But this was a nice developer feature that we decided to incorporate in Quay by demand of the community. So if you look at Quay, real quick, so again, Quay is our container registry offering. I like to think of it as more than that, though. It's not just containers and building them and hosting them and securing them, but it's also about applications. So Quay recently came out with a feature where we can deal with Helm charts as well. So that's a really nice add-on. But again, Quay is our container registry. You can see that it is building my application right now. But some highlights that I like to call out for Quay, why this thing is building. Not something that's easily demonstrable, but Quay is geo-replicated and has HA built in. It's got great features like automatic garbage collection and cleanup in the background for when you get too many layers and too many containers in there. And you can't really see this, and again, it's hard to demonstrate, but Quay also comes with a feature where it uses a torrent distribution for the images. So I've had plenty of customers tell me that they're looking at Quay just for that because of the performance capabilities and the scalability of that model. Other image registries out there don't use a torrent distribution system, so they've had self-inflicted denial of service attacks where the system couldn't handle the load. So Quay handles all of that. While we're waiting for the build on my application change, I'd also like to call out a huge value add that Quay brings to the table. It's the security scanning. So again, our vision of securing and running the internet, it started with the operating system. It's now we're going to keep, and it's always keeping the operating system up to date. Tectonic always keeps Kubernetes up to date. Well, your applications that are hosted, your applications that are pulled from the container image registry itself, those things need to be scanned as well. So Quay has a security scanner called Claire that goes in, and for everything you host on Quay, it automatically goes through and pulls all the CVEs from various different repositories and scans and looks for vulnerabilities. Now, what I've pulled up here is an awful image, so don't build things like this, but this is an awful image with lots of vulnerabilities just to kind of show off the user interface of Claire. So the security scanners here, you can see that CVEs are all called out. They're all pulled from repositories. You got warnings. You can click through even on the CVE itself and see what's going on. But again, this all harkens back to our mission of securing and running the internet. So you're scanning and making sure your application, your containers are safe to run. So if we go back to the build is completed. So what I can do is I can tag this build. So if I go to the latest tag here, I can add an additional tag called, let's call it baseline delta. Now, some of this is manual work where you make an edit to the application, it automatically builds, and then you tag it, and then I'm going to push the tag to deploy a new version of the application on Tectonic. But you could automate all of this as well, right? You can make it part of your standard CI/CD flow. So now that I've built and I've tagged it, I can go back into Hello World, and I can pull my updated tag. Now, once I hit Save Changes here, you'll see one of the awesome things happen with Tectonic, where it can actually roll in this updated application automatically without any downtime at all. So I'm going to Save Changes here. And then you'll see that the pods are automatically terminating the old ones and then pulling the new image and then bringing up the new web application. So if I were to go to my application now, and I might be jumping the gun, but hopefully it's ready, again, it's still up and running, and all of a sudden we have our new application with the changes. Right? And again, another thing I'd like to emphasize here is, I mean, you saw how easy this was. You can imagine plugging this into your standard CI/CD flow, but if I were to, I mean, remember that this is all Kubernetes under the cover. So if I were to go to the command line now, and I kubectl, right? I'm using kubectl, which everybody in the community knows and loves. This is a command line tool to operate the cluster. And I go ahead and you can see that I'm going to change the YAML here back to my baseline. Again, just proving to you this is all Kubernetes under cover, open source, up to date, all the good stuff you know and love, pushing it through kubectl. If I were to come in here and refresh this YAML, you can see that my changes are reflected. I mean, we just make it really easy, but under the covers, again, this is Kubernetes that you know and love with all the tool sets available. And again, we are up to date. Right? Kubernetes releases in the open source community, and we uptake that within weeks and get all the features and functions and the new stuff into Tectonic with our value add on top. So if I were to go here again, that flashed really fast, but now I've reverted back to my old version of the web app. I refresh this, and again, we're back to baseline. So again, Tectonic is our enterprise distribution of Kubernetes. It makes everything super simple to do, and it keeps your Kubernetes current and secure. And Quay is our app or container registry that goes in hand with Tectonic. So thanks for joining me today. Feel free to reach out to CoreOS if you have any questions. Thank you.